Baruchim Abba B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Irgin Shir Tarlak. Welcome everyone to today's shir from our Yakov Smith Shlita on when separating is not boirer. Hagdara Shal Taruvas Linyan Issur boirer. To have the great schus sponsoring a shir, call Irgin Shir Tarlak 718-851-8651 or email isp@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
A few months ago, we discussed one question of boirer. One is considered a min echad, that's one food that is no boirer. For example, we spoke about the top and bottom of a chicken, different type of seforim. But the point was that if we could say that it's one min, it's all one food, there's no problem of boirer because there's no taruvos. Okay, the word is tarovis, but everybody says taruvos, is ein taruvos. But the point is, when you don't have a taruvos, if it's not mixed up, it can't be boirer. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's definitely two minim. We'll say it once and for all. The question is, even though it's two minim, but is it enough mixed up that it's considered taruvos? For example, you could have a big item, a big fruit, mixed up. Is that considered taruvos since each one is noticeable? Solids and liquids, for example, eggs in a pot with water. You forgot to drain the water before Shabbos. Clothing in a closet, suits or dresses, or a sticker that's sticking on a fruit that is put on when they ship it. In other words, we're talking about two minim. We're talking about that if you take the good from the bad to eat right away, you take a good grape and leave the rotten grapes, that's pashut. Today we're talking about you're not taking it for immediate use, but the question is, how do you define the word taruvos? Again, is a pile of seforim considered a taruvos? If it's not a taruvos, it's not boirer. So, if you look closely, we hopefully will find a very clear hagdara. The Tosefta Masechta Shabbos Perek Zayin Halacha Vav first speaks about peiros that are nispazru, that are separate, no problem of boirer. Nisarvulay peiros bepeiros, but if the fruit got mixed up one and the other, then you're allowed to take the good, take out an apple to eat, but you can't separate the apples for later use because that's boirer. So here we see two important yesodis. First of all, we see the contrast. Pizur, spread out, is not taruvos. But if it's nisarvu, when there's an eruv, when there's a mixture, it is considered a taruvos. But we also see, maybe more importantly, that the Tosefta is talking about fruits. Now, I assume the fruits of then were at least as big as ours. Let's talk about a rimon, a pomegranate. They had pomegranates. So if you have mixed up pomegranates, good or not good, some are spoiled, is that a taruvos? Isn't that pretty big? In other words, in the Mishkan, what was the issur boirer? As the Rambam in Pirush Mishnayos explains, the kernels of wheat fell into the dirt, so it was mixed up with debris, dirt, and pebbles. They are all small items. It was a very real mixture. But who said fruits is considered taruvos? But it's obvious from the Tosefta that there is a problem of boirer by fruits. So something as big as a fruit, apples and oranges and pears, would be taruvos. But we see even more so from a Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi is in Shabbos, Perek Zayin Halacha Beis. It's a very long halacha, so it's daf mem tesam beis in the daf Yerushalmi. And the Yerushalmi says beferish, afilu rimoinim min gav rimoinim. Even if you have rimoinim, it's considered a taruvos. But then the Yerushalmi adds something which is surprising, that if so, even b'nei nash min gav b'nei nash. Even if you have a mixture of people, it would also be taruvos. Now we have to figure out what that means. So maybe you're giving a shir Shabbos and it's a packed crowd, and you throw out one of the people listening. So if you pull him out, it might be boirer. If he walks out, but we'll soon see the Yerushalmi says by people, it's shaykh boirer. Now we have to explain that, but let's go weiter. What sheds a lot of light on the sugi is a Gemara in Shabbos Ayin Daled. We'll say the story of Rabbi Bibi, because that's who it was. Rabbi Bibi had the privilege that Shabbos of serving the Talmidei Chachamim. And he had a basket of food, and he took the basket and he threw it onto the table, so all the food in the basket separated. So Rashi explains the Gemara. We don't know why he did that. Did he do it because he was worried about boira, because all the food was mixed up? So presumably, now that it's all spread out on the table, it's not a taruvais. Or maybe he wanted to show how generous he was. But all the paiskim, and I saw Rav Moshe Chelik Dalsim and Ayin Dal Sivkat Yud Aleph asks, and if he's worried about bayra, so what did he gain? You consider a basket of food a mixture. Throwing it on the table, that's also bayra. Teretz, no, it's not bayra. You didn't do a ma'isa bayra. You just threw it. But the question is, now that it's all spread on the table, why is it mutter? It's the same amount of food. Teretz is a chilik is pashit. In the basket, it's taruvais. On the table, it's nispazru. And the lashon of the Rishonim, the Mordechai in Shin Samachalaf, Yezah Adam Mishnei Minei Peres, Shenis Arvu, V'chol Shkein Psoilis Shenis Arev. Rabbeinu Chananel's lashon is Psoilis Hamureves Ba'oichel. So we see the key word is taruvais. Shulchan Aruch in Shin Yotez Gimel Hayilafon of Shnei Minei Oichlin Mu'uravim. But to give it a little more hezbah, a little more geschmack, the oldest kasha is, what's a classic example of bayra? Let's say in the case of the Mishkan, you take out the pebbles, so you're left with the oichel. The correct issue is Yakov, to be a malacha deraisa, it has to be a malacha tzricha legufa. You have to do a malacha with a positive benefit. You cook food to eat the food. That's awesome. If you cook food not to eat the food, it's not a tzricha legufa, and it's only the rabbanan. Frag the Yeshua Yaakov in Shin Yotesif Katan Aleph, why is it better to take out the psoilis from the oichel? You're not eating the psoilis, you're throwing in the garbage. So how could psoilis from oichel be a malacha deraisa? It's a malacha shein tzricha legufa. Zok the Yeshua Yaakov, you're making a mistake. The issur is not taking out the psoilis. The issur is a tikkun oichel. If the food is inedible as it is because it has a very big mixture, so by taking out I'll give you a better mashal, watermelon seeds, I guess Chayim Levracha, but it's a great mashal. Taking out the watermelon seeds from the watermelon's bar deraisa. Why? Not because you need the watermelon seeds. You want to perfect the watermelon, so it shouldn't have seeds in it. So if the issur is tikkun oichel, we can understand. If it's mixed up and you look at it, oive, what am I going to do now? That's a taruvais that there's an issur boyer because of tikkun. But if it's not a taruvais, hai l'chudeikai, if it's not a taruvais, it doesn't need a tikkun. So this would give very much meaning to the word of taruvais. Now, the last stage, of course, is how do you define the word taruvais? Is eggs in water, pickles in pickle juice, is that considered taruvais? So there is a extremely important Trumas Hadeshen. We mentioned it in the other shir regarding Min Echad, and now it's going to play a critical role in this shir as well. Trumas Hadeshen Simin Nun Zayin. I'll read the lashon because it's important. Chatichos dagim unachem al luach echad oikara echad. There is a tray of different types of fish: whitefish, salmon, carp. Mifuradai zu mizu. They're separate. It's a row of whitefish, salmon. They're not touching. So the Estrum Sadeshan, is there a boira to separate the different rows? You finish this kiddush, you want to put everything back in the refrigerator. You don't want to put it back in a big tray in the fridge. You take out the salmon, put it in one bag. Whitefish, another one. So you're not using it for now. So it's really, you're not doing it to eat now. So let me just change the mashal to make it more user-friendly. You have a kiddush, you have a tray of cake, different type of cakes, or different type of kugels, or different type of cold cuts. It's on a tray. Can you separate each one in a separate bag? So first, the Trumas Hadeshen proves that even though it's all fish, but it's two minim. Whitefish and salmon is definitely two minim. Then he adds, and I'll quote, Nira de ma'oid hoye keneged svaras halev. It's unfathomable to even think that the shnei minim sheni karim b'afradosam chatichas gedoylos. Don't forget, this tray is big piece of fish. That's number one. And they're not touching. So it's absolutely unthinkable to say it's boira because it's not mixed up. Where's boira? And he says, he quotes our Mordechai, that the issur of taruvais is, this boira is taruvais. Where's the taruvais? There's a tray of 7 layer, a tray of a sponge cake, and a tray of a cookish cake. Where's the taruvais? And then he says something that's a classic yisoid that has to be remembered. Efes, however, hoil v'kosav b'smag, that boira is a malacha deraisa, ein l'chalek u'l'hakol b'loi raya brura. If I can't prove it that it's mutter, I'm saying it's awesome. Imagine. Mifuradai separate, nikab afrodasam, chatichas gedoylois. But if you can't prove it, you stay away. And we once mentioned this, haloi davahu, roiv ruba of hilchas boira, of hilchas Shabbos, is issur d'Rabbanan. Chazara, shehiyah, muktzah, mekachumemka, most of hilchas Shabbos, most of hilchas Erevin, the Rabbanans. Boira, the first 5 seifim of boira, is either mutter or chayiv. Mutter or chayiv. Chayiv, I don't want to say what, but chayiv is chayiv. And that's what the Trumas Hadeshen's pachad was. If I can't prove it's asa, that it's mutter, I'm going to have to say it's asa. And the Ramah quotes it in Shin Yotes Siv Gimel, and it's noteworthy. He quotes the same lashon, chatichas gedoylois, and it's nikah, but he doesn't stress that they're not touching. And I saw, I'm not sure why, but the Shvisa Shabbos and Boyer Sivka and Chaf Hey says, if you have rows of different foods, cake, cold cuts, kugel, but they're not touching, if they're not touching, there's no Boyer. But the Ayal Meshulish and Amud Lambeches quotes many poiskim that it's not true. From the Trumas Hadeshen, we see even Mefuradais, it would be a problem of Boyer. Now, the question is, how do you understand why Taka is that considered Boyer? It's separate. The teretz is, when you look at a tray and a lot of rows of cake and a lot of pieces of cake, that gives the impression of being a taruvais. It's a tray of cake. What is a tray? One plate with 5 different types of kugels, 5 different types of cakes. That gives the impression of taruvais. Rav Shlomo Zalman says that that definition, what to the eye, it seems like it's a taruvais. Now, I want to ask you a question, which is not a question. The Gemara said in Masechta Shabbos, if you take, Bibi took this whole basket and threw it on the table, and it's mutter, teretz is because there it's separate. But a tray of cake that has cake one next to the other, even if it's not technically touching, that gives an impression of taruvais. The fact that there's a lot of it and close enough makes it boyer. The Rav Shulchan Aruch in Shin Yotes Sivav, tell me if you find anything like this in all of the Rav. The Rav was the Chapoise Gadol Moed. So the Rav says, if you have chatichas gedoyles v'nikares kolecha b'fnei atzmai, efshe deloi shaykh kan breir klal. There's no breir at all. Afal pikein ein lahakil kisafik chayev chatasu. No issur at all, but don't do it. Now, if you have a suffix, make up your mind. Teretz is, that's the psak. I saw the Trumas Hadeshen and I accepted it. Something that either is mutter or chayiv, the Rav says the psak is, if I can't prove it's mutter, I'll stay away. But what we did see, we saw from the Yushalmi, even Rimonim, which are pretty big, is taruvais. Even Adam, according to one pshat in the Yushalmi, is awesome. I saw the Shulchan Shlomo Zalman Oyabach Shin Yotes Siv Dal has a very interesting mashal to explain it. If you have a nursery in the hospital with all the babies, and they all look the same. So maybe taking out one from the other. Now, I don't know which babies, Soilus or Oichel. That was just a hypothetical question. But what's interesting is, and this is noteworthy, the Marsham, the Bajana Rav, in Das Torah Shin Yotes Siv Gimel, he says that you look at the Yushalmi and you see even by people is boira, that's a raya to the Trumas Hadeshen. Hadeshen says that even big pieces, that kol echad nikah b'fnei atzmai. But if it gives you, a feeling that it's all mixed up, it's boira. So if Adam is shaykh boira, then trays of cake are shaykh boira. But then he adds that the nishmas Adam, that's the Chayadam in Tezayin Gimel, when he says the Yushalmi is not saying even by boira is also by Adam. He's saying Adam is shaykh boira, like a lashon tema. So really, it's a shayla how to learn the Yushalmi. But there is another Gemara that the Marsham quotes, a big yesod for our shir. Shabbos Kuf Chaf Aleph, the Gemara says Rav Ashi they had psamim in those days, more than we use today, had a box of psamim, not just a little psamim, container. And Shabbos morning he came, he found an unwanted guest, there was a dead mouse on his psamim. So he picked it up by its tail and removed it. Frag the Gemara, what about muktzah? This is a graf shari. Frag the Masham, forget about muktzah. What about boira? A dead mouse is psoilus on your eichel. So it has to be, Zok the Marsham, that the fact that it's a big mouse on a big box of samim is not a taruvos. Now, he's not saying when you have only 2 items, it's not a taruvos, because we'll soon see eggshell on egg is boira. But he's saying this scene, a mouse on a box of samim, is just not taruvos. Now, of course, you want to get rid of it, it's not pleasant, but if it's not a taruvos, it can't be awesome. So you have to understand, he says, that people is boira, and a mouse that's much smaller is not, but the chiluk is really pashut. Many people, again, if you have a big oilam, so it gives you, wow, this is almost like, this could be a stampede, chas v'shalom, after, right? So they give the impression of a lot of people. That makes it boira. But a mouse on a box of samim is just not a teruvais. So again, the point is, even though it's not connected, but a lot of people give the impression of teruvais. But the psamim, and we're going to use this a lot, number 1, it's not connected. Number 2, it's not mixed up one and the other. It's one on top of the other, and it's noticeably different items. So that would explain the contrast between the psamim, the Gemara in Shabbos, and the Shalmi about people. So what I think you could see is that each Chazal gives us a clarity. We saw the Shalmi said even by Remoinim at Shaykh Boira. But then again, the Gemara Shabbos says a mouse and some is not. And the Kosav Ashlishi, the Trumas Hadeshin said, rows of food could be a taruvos. I saw the Aruch HaShulchan in Sif Ches. It says, Eich matzinu yadeinu v'ragleinu. We have silverware, we have begodim, we have seforim. Is it always boira? So of course the simple teretz, you're taking the good from the bad, use right away. But he says something very yisoidistic. Dova hanika harbe la'ayin haroya loy shaykh loymed bezeh breira. Something that's obviously not a taruvais, it can't be a boira. Ve'ein loyma hagam shnei mine peris. Why is that awesome? He says mitoch katnusan v'ribuyon. If you have a lot of them, and you have it in one basket, I guess he says small, probably he's talking about dates and figs maybe, but if it's small and a lot, the numbers make a big difference. So what is the actual definition? Let me explain. It basically depends on each case. To give a klal would be wrong. Some Zalman says in the Shulchan Shloima, Toli bedas b'nei adam im chashiv me'urav oilai. Do you look at it and you see a disarray or not? But I would add that we saw some precious yisoidis. First of all, that to be boyer, it has to be a tikkun. A tikkun has to be a bilbul. If it's obvious, a mouse on top of a son is not a bilbul. Many people, and you want to find your son, that might be a teruvais. So number 1 is, the Agdara does need a tikkun. Number 2, how close is it? Proximity. Rabbi took a real taruvais, threw it on the table, and is mutter. Why? Because taruvais is asa, pizer is mutter. How close is it? Number 3, the amount. Because the Trumas Hadeshin said, even though it's big pieces, but if you have a whole tray of different foods, it's mixed up. It's the amount of it. But I think that's most decisive is how big or small it is. And I'll give you a perfect mashal. We'll soon see that Lamaisa, eggs in water, is mutter to take out the eggs or pour off the water, even when you're not using it right away, not a teruvais. Why? Solid and liquid is mutter. Hayala al adas, if there's a fly in the soup, you can take out the fly. It's a solid and liquid. How do you compare the two? Eggs in water is big. Fly in soup, you come out, don't see it. So it's basically, does it need a tikkun? How close is it? How many are there? And most importantly, the size of it. Very big is more often, could be not boira, unless there's a lot of it, like Rimoinim. So now let's apply it Lamaisa. Again, it's totally basic in our perception, but I think we'll have enough Mishal to give it even more crystal clear. I always like contrast, right? Mixed nuts of all different type of nuts is a taruvais. Why? Look at it. It's small pieces and a lot of it. How about a fruit cup, which has small pieces of watermelon, cantaloupe, pineapple, whatever it may be? Oh, so that's a little bigger than nuts. But the fact that it's different pieces in one, and it's held together by a bowl, that makes it into taruvais, an avada. Take out the pineapple if you don't like it, then it would be considered boira. Now, but what's a little more of a challenge, maybe more pashut I should say, is a fruit platter. A fruit platter has one slice typically on top of the other. Or even if it's slices of watermelon, slices of cantaloupe, but typically they're touching one another, laying one on another. So this is the Trumas Hadeshin. It's probably worse than Trumas Hadeshin, because the Trumas Hadeshin was talking about a piece of fish. And these are thin slices of different types of fruits and other type of vegetables. So even though it's not mamish as pashut as raisins and peanuts, but it's enough of a taruvais. But I think what's the biggest chiddush, but today it should be pashut, is a fruit bowl. A fruit bowl you rarely see today, because today everything is fruit platters, everything has to be instant. But a fruit bowl means you have whole apples and different type of apples and oranges and pears. So this is much bigger than anything we said till now, much bigger than a fruit cup, than raisins and nuts, and even a fruit platter. But at the end of the day, we had a Yishalmi that says by Rimoinim. The Tosefta spoke about this Arvu Peiros. Trumas Hadeshin talks about Gedolim. And the fact that there's a bowl that connects them all into one, it's a fruit bowl, Lashon Yachid, with many different parts of it. So the fact that it's big would not be a heter. Oh, but Avad, you're allowed to have a fruit bowl. You take the good, you like an apple, take an apple. We'll soon see if you find the apple on the bottom is also mutter. But after you've served this fruit bowl, you want to put each fruit back in a different bag. That's a real problem of boira. You're not using it for immediate use. More commonly, a tray of cake, kugel, cold cuts, and you want to clean up afterwards. So obviously, this is not the Mishkan's case of small kernels with debris and pebbles, but this is the Trumas Hadeshin. It's not fish, it's cake, it's kugel, it's cold cuts. So even if they're not touching, kolshkin, if they are touching one another, this is the Trumas Hadeshin, and the Rav's lashon is, even though it doesn't seem to be boira, but it's a safek deraisa. Now, lamaisa, after a simcha, when you're cleaning up, sometimes it's even worse because there's leftovers and it's mixed up and people are a little rough and they move the pile. So approach with caution. Unless you could say that this is not a taruvais, we definitely assume that trays of any sort are considered a taruvais. Now again, does that mean I can't eat a piece of cake from the tray because it's taruvais? There's no. Taking out the good to eat for right away, we gave the mashal ayol, oichol, taking out the good, yad, using a hand, not a keli, la'alta, to eat it right away or soon enough, would be mutter. So you could go to the kiddush, take out this piece of cake and this piece of watermelon, as long as it's for that suda, is okay. Le'idach gisa, a good contrast. We're going to get to that soon. Good. The contrast would be someone served what was served the main course, a piece of chicken, kugel, and vegetables. And he not keen about vegetables. He wants to take it off his plate. So you have to see, how big the plate is, how full it is. But if it's each one high l'chudei koi and it's not touching, but not touching, it's separate, there's no shaykhis. If it's close enough, and if he packed it in, or he has a mother that gave him a very big portion, and everything is mamish one touching the other, if it's not noticeably different, then there would be a problem of boira. Now, another good contrast: you wash the silverware, and now they're in the dish drainer. Now you have a real taruvais, big and small soup, forks. That's taruvais, knives. That's no doubt about it. To use a teaspoon to make a tea is fine. I'm using it right away. But if I want to set up a table now, at night, for tomorrow morning, then even though I'm taking what I need, the good from the bad, so to speak, but it's not la'alta, so that would be a problem of boira. So the eitzah is take the whole bunch of silverware and scatter onto the table, you have the Gemara Bar Bibi, which Moshe said was a valid eitzah. Now, am I beating the system? No. You're following the system. Scattering is not a Maisa Boira. And now it's Nispazru. So what's the issur? If scattering, like Rabbi Yashin got held, scattering is a Maisa Boira, that you have a problem. But most poskim hold that scattering is not a Maisa Boira. So you're not beating the system, you're following the system. A clothing that you have in a closet, whether it's suits, shirts, or nashim for dresses. So again, there's no cloud because you have to see it. But if you have a packed closet, especially dresses and shirts are very thin, they blend one into the other, you barely could see what you're looking for. So how could you think of saying that's not a taruvos? If you have a widely spaced closet for coats, no, you could say, I don't think it's taruvos, and it's up to you. But clothing that, a closet that's packed very closely one to the other, that would be a problem of boy. Now, that means I can't take out a suit to wear, a coat to wear? Relax. If you're needing it to use right away, that's ayil. But to take out a shirt to wear tomorrow morning, Shabbos morning, is not right away. So you're taking the good, not using a keli, but it's not la'alta. Now, where this is more negeya, I guess during the winter, when you go to shul, you leave your coat in the coat room, and there's many, many coats. Or during the summer, the me'ilim, the raincoats, you have loads of them, they all look similar. So that is usually, again, if you have a nice attendance, that usually is a taruvos. But here's the good news. I usually don't take it out for tomorrow. I'm taking it out now to go home. So that would be taking the good from the bad to wear it right away, and that's mutter. And we'll soon see about the coats that you don't want. Another perfect mashal, you have a carrot on a fish. So some people don't like the carrot. Okay. So for him, we assume it's psoilus. Now, of course, this would not be a problem of boira. Take it off even though it's psoilus. Why? Because it is not like the Mishnah's pebbles with kernels. Carrot is a nice size slice. More so, it's probably similar to the Gemara about the achbar. I'm not saying a carrot is an achbar, but it's the mamish very similar. You see, when you have two items that are connected, we'll soon see an eggshell and an egg, that would be a taruvos because it's connected. But achbar on some of his mutter because it's very different, not connected, and there's no reason to consider it taruvos. So therefore, a carrot on the fish would be like that Gemara. It's not enough of a taruvos. Now, avada, I want to add. You'll ask me, why was it mutter to take off the mouse? The psumim need a tikkun. I can't use psumim with a mouse on it. That's true. But it's not a chesar in the cheftza of the psumim. It's just an obstruction. It's like someone has food locked in the freezer, and no one has the key. So one fellow picks the lock, and he opens it. Oh, he's a boira. Gaining access is not boira, right? So getting rid of the mouse is not a tikkun in the psumim. And the fish does not need a tikkun because the carrot's on top of it. The emphasis in Hilchos Brachos, you see, that if you eat the carrot separately, you make a bracha separately. Why? Because it's not two foods. It's not one food, it's two foods. And that, it probably impacts Hilchos Boira. It's not considered a teruvos. Now we appreciate another big sugya in Hilchos Boira. And that is the obvious question. Why is it a problem of peeling eggs, fruit, or vegetables? L'moshel, the Bi'alochen, Siv Dalid, Shrais Chai V'Kayim, people that peel onions or garlic to use for later, not for this Suda, for later in the day, it could be a Chayiv Chatos. In fact, he quotes a Yerushalmi. If you peel garlic or onions for not immediate use, it's Chayiv Chatos. Why? Because it's Boira. The question is, where's teruvos? The shell's on the outside, the egg is inside, there's no mixture. It's not like watermelon seeds in watermelon. But the emphasis is, we said it's a Rishalmi. And the Ramah in the end of Shin Chaf Aleph says you can't peel fruits or vegetables unless it's for that Suda. So Re'ez Apella. We say, not a kasha, why not? Zok Tiarach HaShuch and Asiv Chav Beis, I don't understand, where's Boyer by peeling? And he says, that it's not boira. If you peel an egg or garlic, it's not boira. Either Yishalmi. The Yishalmi is talking about that when you peeled it, either you cut it up or peeled it, and it ended up in the food, in the peeled onions and garlic, the shells are there. So now you have a mixture of garlic and garlic peels, onions and onion peels. But to peel something, the shell, l'chudei, hay l'chudei, where's the boyer? And he writes, listen to this, harachti b'zeh, because the minig by the women is they peel eggs in the morning, go to shul, and I saw Baal Mishnah Brura, Hirish al zeh, and he calls it chayiv chatos. I felt the atim lamas chus an yidin. But his svara is not bad. Where's the teruvais? However, and I must mention, this is important, the Torah Shabbos, also from the early Achrayim, Mesif Cotton Beis, not the Torah Shabbos, Torah Shabbos, he also has this kasha. Where's the issur of boira by peeling? And his lashon is, it's interesting, Einei me'urav klal, she'ein zeh boira ela masakin. Now, to me, that's the answer, not the problem. Because the way all the poskim say, you can't say peeling is mutter because of Yishalmi, Mishtabura, Ramah, Bray poskim. What's takapshat? Why is it takaboira? There it's beautiful. Lamaisa, there's a b'chsaron with the egg. It has a shell in it. There's a chsaron with the onion. So since it's connected, it needs a tikkun. Once it needs a tikkun, that's why it's awesome. Torah Shabbos uses the word tikkun as a heta. I think it's an issur. And that's why the poskim say the other end, extreme, peeling shaloi l'tzorech ois suda is a malacha deraisa. Next question, and again, is a chsaron in the cheftza, not just there's a mouse on top of my psamim. There's something wrong with the egg, it's not yet ready for use. Next group of questions, a delightful shaila. Let's say you have a slice of meat with a layer of fat on the side of it, and it's very unappealing. You want to cut it off the night before, you want to get rid of it, you might forget to do it the next day. Whatever the case is, you want to cut the layer of fat from a piece of meat. Or you cut off the layer of fat from the meat, you take himself. Is there any heta for that? Question number 2. This is an fataytish shayla, but you have smetana, you have the cream on the milk, and you don't like the cream. You want to take off the cream and drink the milk. In other words, we have a layer of something undesirable that presumably should be a psoilus. So lamaisa, what the Welt said, the chayra, this shouldn't be a problem, a boira, because it's not mixed in like watermelon seeds. But then again, this is mamish, like the case of the egg. But what needs a hezbah, the Mishtabura Taka says in Sivkot and Samach Beis, that if you have the smetna on the milk, that's boira. And obviously the shitasai, just like an eggshell is a problem of boira, smetna is a problem of boira. But the eitzah is, take off the majority of the smetna, leave at least a thin layer of smetna on the milk, and then you're okay. In other words, if you leave a little bit of the psoilus, it's okay. I assume the same would be if you cut off roiv of the fat and leave a thin sliver of fat on the meat, it's fine. But the question is, why does this work? There's no doubt about it. If someone has in the Mishkan, he has 10 pebbles and 10 kernels, and he takes out 5 of them, so up to Eglei Tal and Siv Dalit, even though he didn't take all the psoilus, he's chayiv. Someone takes out some of the watermelon seeds, it's still a malacha boira. So why, if you take most of the smetna or most of the fat, is it mutter? So I'll give you a beautiful mashal. I didn't bring it in to show you guys, you know how it looks without me, but imagine I have in my hand a black and white. Black and white, you know how it is, it's like a cookie cake. And most people only like the black. If he cuts the black and white down the center and takes off the white, he doesn't like it, and gets rid of it, that's boira. Why is it boira? Because you don't like the white. If you like the white, it's oichel, but you don't like it, right? Now, watch this. I want to be accommodating to halacha, but I don't like the white. So I cut off 98% of the white, but there's the whole black with a sliver of white. Is that boira? So you say, Well, you took off 95% of the psoilus. Why is it different than the case of the egg tal, right? But there's a big chiluk. Because when you have taruvais in the entire food, like in watermelon, like in the mishkan, like in the pebbles, so it's one big taruvais, all of it, and taking some is perfecting some. That's why it's awesome. But here, the entire black is perfect. Just at the point of connection, the makam of the davuk, I would say dibuk, but it's a scary word. Davuk, the place where it's davuk, that's the place where it's taruvais, the center of the black and white. So if you cut off 98% of the white, and you left the same davuk, you didn't touch the bayra, you didn't touch the taruvais. It's still there. The het is not you left zeichel lechorbins is good. The heta is because the only problem of boira is the place where it's of the dibuk. And that's why in the black and white is perfectly mutter if you leave a little bit of white. And that's why by the case of the fat on the meat or the smetna, if you leave the point of connection, so you didn't improve the makam of taruvais. The watermelon seed, it's all taruvais. Peeling an egg, part of the egg is boira. You know why? Because now you perfected that part of the egg that's exposed. So the chiluk is pashit kipshutai. This explains taking off chicken, skin. So again, it used to be, Moshe said this, that chicken and the skin is oichel. People ate skin. Today, if you eat skin, it's still oichel echad, min echad. But let's say you will not eat the skin. So taking off the skin is like peeling an egg. And should only be done samach l'suda. Now, today they have a new form of boira, beautiful shayla, and that is kishke. So kishke comes in a wrapper, but it's not just they put a wrapper after they make it. That's where they make it. They put the raw ingredients into the wrapper, and the question is to take off the wrapper of kishke on Shabbos. So the truth is, if you're eating it right away, no problem. Even peeling an egg is mutter. But let's say you're doing it for later use. Or a wrap of salami, these type of shilas. So the emes is that you might argue and say, well, there's a new problem. I mean, if I have a bag of potato chips, so opening it is boira. Or if I have a sliced turkey and I have a packaging, so it's boira. So here the chutshani, this in Kirelitz, and he really is based on a chazinish, in Amid Cheli Beis Amid Tzadik. He says it's very different. A wrapper is not boira because it's a wrapper. But the kishke was made in the wrapper. That becomes like the shell of the egg. It becomes the shell of it. It becomes like an egg, and taking the wrapper off would be boira. And a wrapper of sliced the turkey, for example. So it's like Karzel said, this is oichel and this is a container. The Chazinish, it's interesting, in the end of Siman Samach Aleph, he says, this case of salami or kishke, where it's made in it, it's cooked in it, you're allowed to cut off the wrapper itself, samach lachila, you're tearing a plastic, that's like kareya arapi. A chavi is no problem of tearing it. But he doesn't discuss why it's not boira. Teretz is pashit. If you're doing it right away, it's not worse than an egg. But here the point is, Lamashal, someone asked me, can he open for his child going to shul early in the morning? I mean, for them, for the mothers early in the morning. They want to take all the wrappers off the lollipops or the candies. So you're taking off the psoilus from the oichel. It's not even for immediate use. So a lollipop wrapper, I would assume, is a cover. It's not the klipa. It's not like the shell. It's not like the kishke. Now here, Rav Shlomo Zalman has a chiddush in Shmir HaShabbos, Perek Gimel, Ha'ora Kuf Chav Ches, and he says that if you have a sticky candy on the wrapper and you can't just take it off, you have to peel it off, that might be like a eggshell. It's only mutter la'alta. And he sends you Shin Ches Sif Yudalid. Now Shin Ches Hilchas Muktzah, I wonder where was he sending us? So there, interesting mashal. He has the Minal Chadash Mutla Shem Taimi Ala Defus. They used to keep shoes in like a shoe, I think called a shoe tree. They would keep the shoe in. So to pull it out would be mutter. Why? No problem of muktzah. That's what the Shulchan was talking about. Why isn't it a problem of boira? Teretz says, why is it boira? It's two different items. So he's learning that a candy wrapper is not a problem of boira unless it's sticky. Now, I want to make a point, which Zalman says you have to follow it, but on this Karyelis that I mentioned, he says even sticky candy wrapper is not a problem. It's not the klifa of the candy. The only problem he has is with a kishke wrapper, where that became its shell because it was cooked in that. So it's interesting that even a sticky candy should l'chayr in his svar is mutter. But one thing I will tell you, and this will crystallize the point, let's say you got before Shabbos a delivery of a fleishik of food, and the person sent it, the company sent it, double wrapped it, it's perfectly mutter, two chesamis. Opening the two chesamis on Shabbos, is that a problem of boira? So opening it, of course, you'll do it by ifan heter. But taking out the food, is it boira? Of course not. Why? It doesn't become part of the food. It's a wrapper. It's like food in a plastic bag. Or better yet, let's say you have shoes and you have rubbers on top of it. Today's rubbers are pretty tight fit. Taking off the rubber off the shoe, is that boira? There's no shaykhs one to the other. And therefore, it would not be a problem. What's tricky is, today many fruits have a sticker on it. A label you call it, whatever it is, it's stuck onto the fruit. So the assumption is that you want to take it off before you serve it, before you cut, especially you want to cut through it, you'll tear the lettering. So the emphasis is it's not like a peel, but it's davuk, it's stuck on it. So the emphasis is that some say, why don't we just say it's mutter samach lachila? You're allowed to peel samach lachila, why should this be different? But here I saw a number of gedolei poskim make a chiluk. What's taka the svar of the Maimon Mordechai? You're allowed to peel, take off the psoilis of the egg or the orange from the food. Are you taking the psoilis from the oichel? Teretz is derech achila. There's no other way to eat it. That heta is not a heta. Whenever you can't do beheta, be'issa, do beheta. That heta is, the derech achila is to peel an egg and to peel an orange. It doesn't say in Torah you can't eat eggs. So it must be allowed to peel derech achila. But something that's not there b'teiloda, that's not there as a natural part of the food, a sticker that was stuck on afterwards, not derech achila. You don't have to eat it by taking. You don't have to have a peel. You don't have to have a sticker. So the heter of samach lachila, derech achila will not work by a sticker. So what is the eitzah? So I saw Rav Falk in the Sefer says a very practical eitzah. Peel a little bit of the sticker off. Then hold on to that little bit and pull the apple off the sticker. So you're taking the oichel from the psoilis. Or, it's a little not as geschmack, cut off the area of the fruit where the sticker is stuck on. So you're leaving the makam of the dibuk as it is untouched, and you didn't affect the ma'isa boira. So if you have imagination, you'll see in cutting off that piece of the apple is like the black and white. Same idea. Someone had a spicy topping on his challah, and he doesn't like spicy topping, and he wants to take off all the dip, whatever it is that's on his challah. So this is two foods only, but it's no different than an eggshell. It's medubik, it's stuck on. Now I know it's not the betelada, but it's stuck on. And even the Maimon Mordechai l'chay would not be mekel in this case. That's not derech achila. The takeoff of food not derech achila. So this would be a problem of boira l'chay. The question we began with: big items in water, eggs in water, pickles in water, other kneidlach in soup. So here the poskim seem to feel that this is a combination. Number one, it's solid and liquid, which is obviously different. Number two, it's big solid in liquid. And to my knowledge, almost all the poskim say that since you have this combination, it would not be a problem of boira because it's not a taruvos. Now, it's not just iboyis aim a svara, iboyis aim a kra. First of all, we have l'chayra, the case of the achbar, right? The egg in water is not any more boira taruvos than an achbar on the apsanim. But we could do better than that. The Gemara in Shabbos Hayam at Beis says egois agabi mayim, and the question is about picking up the egg off the water mitzad haitzah. What about boira? Zokt, I saw the Shvisa Shabbos quotes Mari Chagiz, the Shvisa Shabbos boira chahara chafei, that something as big as an egois in water is not a taruvos. Pashut, solid, liquid, two different velten. But he has a second raya, a real shafer raya. In Shabbos Kuv Zayin Amud Beis, the Gemara speaks about someone has a fish in a small pond of water, which Rashi says is not mechus tzeda. It's nitzud mi boijoim, no problem of tzeda. The problem is he pulls it out of the water on Shabbos and lets it die, so that's like netilas neshama. So the two issues with pulling a fish out of a pond of water is tzeda or netilas neshama. And what about boira? Why isn't it boira? Teretz is big item in liquid is not a taruvais. If it's not a taruvais, it's not boira. So up to Shmir HaShabbos in Paragimel, Halacha Daled, talking about meat in gravy or eggs in water, there's no problem of boira. It's not taruvais. The Shmir HaShabbos in Halacha Chaf, and I saw many other places, Migdanis Aliyo, Chela Gimel, Membeis, beautiful Tshuva Grada, Hilchah Shabbos Tes Harat 87, quoting Abba Yashiv, pickles in its juice. If you want to first cut it up, it's easier to just spill it out, all the liquid, and you have the pickles. So they all say it's not a taruvais. It's big items in a liquid, plus also the fact that it might be like kvashim mushlakos, but basically they're calling that a non-taruvai situation. Even though when you look at it, it's like looks like one. You have so many pickles in liquid, but neman aleinu hanu paiskim that it's not a taruvais. If you have a lemon in a drink, now I'm not talking about lemon in a hot drink, that's a problem of maybe a problem of bishul. Today people put lemon in water. Taking out the lemon from the pitcher is not taruvais, and therefore shouldn't be boyer. A tea bag in a tea, what was made beheta on Shabbos, obviously, that l'chayra is also a dava gadol, a gush, in a dava lach. So taking it out shouldn't be a problem of boyer and mitzvah taking it out. What is a problem, all the players can say, when you hold it on top of the cup of tea, so all the tea sense drips out, so that would be boyer b'keli. You want to use the design of the tea bag that holds back the leaves and lets the juice drip out, so that's boyer b'kli, that you're using a kli, even oichel mitayach p'soilus is a problem. Now, what I didn't find earlier paiskim, it's just a heintige paiskim, but it's interesting. Let's say I have pickles and juice or eggs in a pot of water, and I want to move things quickly. Can I take the whole jar of pickles and pour it into a strainer, a kli boyer, without doubt, and separate the liquid from the pickles or the water from the eggs? In other words, when we assume there's no problem of boyer because it's not a taruvais, can I use a kli boyer? So pashtas, my reaction is, why not? If it's not taruvais, it can't be boyer. Why it's kli boyer? So the Ktsois HaShulchan, a little slightly different context, in Kuf Chafei Sif Yudalid, Shevet Alevi Chelik Ches Simon Nun Ches, both say, but to use a kli boyer might be like plug. Now, I don't know, the Chol could be, but he's saying he calls it like plug. Now, it's hard to understand. Is it like Maras Ayin? Maybe. So Ayin Sham, if you're convinced that was a factor, but l'chayra in Svara, if it's not a Maisa boyer, so how could a kli boyer affect it in any way? Could be takitz a shtickle of a siyag and agdor. But what's more negeya, especially the summer months are coming, you have ice cubes in water, and you have a specially designed pitcher that holds the ice cubes back, has like a certain spout in the front, and the water comes out and keeps the ice cubes behind. So that l'chayr is boyer b'kli. But we have the same combination. Ice in water is gadol in katan, liquid in solid, and like the paiskim, that shouldn't be a problem of boyer. The only question is using a kli. So could be this is not, doesn't give the impression of being a kli boyer. This is a regular pitcher that you use the whole year. So the paiskim say, another svarag incidentally, that ice cubes in water is a min echad, because it melts and becomes water. So it's not like ice cubes in soda. So, but the truth is, if you say like that, fight, you have a heta, but you don't need that heta. The question is it enough of a heta to even use a water pitcher? The chayr makes sense. It's not a boyer situation, and therefore the pitcher is okay. Fly in the soup, taking out the flies, like the taz and sifkat and yud gimel, mishnah and all the paiskim say, you take out some of the soup together with the fly. Now, there is a big chiddush, the Ber Heitev and Sivkatan Beis quote the Maritz Haloin. He was a contemporary of the Beis Yosef in a beautiful tshuva in Siman Reish Gimel. Now, he seems to hold any salad in liquid, across the board, there's no boira. He has a little more of a svar to ayin sham. So like him, a fly in the soup should be okay. But as we saw, the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkatan Sam B'chalav Bi'alocha in Siv Tezvav says this could be a problem of chayiv chatos. So the minig is not like the Maritz Haloin, but I did see that you saw it in the Ber Heitev. But therefore, since we are concerned about a fly in the soup, the same is true if you have a clear soup, but there's one vegetable that gets you nervous because it takes away the clarity of the soup. So that's a taruvais. That's not like a knedel in the soup. That's a small piece of vegetable or a stray lakshin or something like that. Once it gives you the impression of being a taruvais, then you have a problem, even though it's a solid in a liquid. You have a pile of towels, and let's say you take out a certain towel and you don't like any other towel but that one. So this is a new type of taruvais called a layer of clothing one on top of the other. So I must tell you that the Paiskim say, even though it's stacked one on top of the other, neatly piled, it's not like a laundry basket that's one big mishachts, but lamaisa, this is a taruvais. So no problem, take the goods from the bed. Begodim can be a taruvais in a drawer. If you have a bunch of different socks with different colors, that's taruvais. What's interesting, people sometimes go to a hotel for Shabbos or away for Shabbos, and they have a suitcase that they don't want to unpack it, they live out of a suitcase. So again, depending on the suitcase, but it's pretty reasonable to say that it's taruvais. You have everything there in one little, small area, even though it's not like mixed one into the other, like watermelon seeds, but it's a taruvais. So you have to do things right. A basket of laundry is a real taruvais, but there's two eights if you have to get something. First of all, if you scatter it out, or even turn it over, sometimes you could see what you're looking for. So either the two is an eitzah. But here we come to a beautiful part of this sugya, and that is, let's say you have a pile of coats, went to a Shalom Zachar, you're the first one to come, but now there's 20 coats on top of your coat. How do you take out your coat? Or you have coats on a coat rack, one on top of the other. So the chayra, this is a taruvais, and someone else's coat is not yours, that's psilas. So I once gave a beautiful mashal, I think. Let's say you bought mixed nuts, and the one nut you like, there's only one in that nut, the fancy nuts they have, only one of them in the whole mixture. And you like that nut. So you go looking and looking, and you move all the peanuts, and finally you find, I think macadamia is called, that fancy nut. Oh, you found the treasure. Now, so it took, no doubt about it, it's taruvais, right? And you were looking very much to find it. Is that boira? You took the goods from the bed, but you moved the 35 peanuts to the side. But look again. You move them to the side, but it's still the same taruvais. It's all in that little container. All those peanuts got you nervous. So you moved it to the side, up and down, but you took out the oichel and didn't perfect the psilas. Taking something out of a mixture, if you don't remove the psilas, is not a ma'isa boira. I'll give you a mashal. If you have let's say a gaboyim have this seforim, some yeshivas have a Rolodex of different cards of all the seforim that they have. So you're looking for a certain sefer or a certain name of a mispal to give an aliyah, and you know, not him. Now all these people are psilas. You finally get to the shlishi. He's my shlishi. So is it boira? You touch 25 cards. There it's no. I touched 25 cards, and maybe they're psilas, but it's still the same taruvais. Taking coat and throwing it out, it's not mine. Maybe that's boira. Maybe. But what I did is, I just looking for my coat under the other coats. I moved the big pile, I moved this to the left, to the right, but if the pile remains, I didn't take out not one of the psilas. That is not a ma'isa boira. Shlomo Zalman in Shmir Shabbos Gimel Mem Zayin says this regarding those cards, and I think it applies to coats as well. It just like it applies to nuts in a very simple way. The only question is the Mishnah Berurah in Sivkatan Tezvav and the Bialacha on that Mishnah Berurah, he seems to be makel even if you remove the coats. He's talking about coats piled on a hanger, one on top of the other, like a big hook, 1, 2, 3, 4. Taking one off to the other, he's makel also. And you look in the Bialacha, he has 3 reasons to make very dakas de gechalukim, but Chofetz Chaim says it. So he basically says that efsha, it's mutter to take off the coats to get to yours. Mr. Ru use a lashon of efsha, but the Ktseis HaShulchan, Mizgeres HaShulchan, the Tzitz Eliezer, Yud Beis, Lamanei all say it's mutter. The lumdis is you're not trying to perfect the coat, you're trying to get to it. So if someone takes the coat and moves it to the side, yes, Shami Lisma, Mr. Ru is makel. But it's certainly better if you could somehow move the coat to the side, but not take out one from the other, leave the pile as it is. You didn't perfect it, you didn't do a ma'aseh borer at all. We had a shaila once where someone had a pile of chairs and 1 or 2 were broken. So even though one's not in the other, but if it's stacked one on top of the other or one next to the other, that should be a situation of borer. You're taking out the pseilis from the oichel. After the person finishes eating, he has on his plate silverware and leftover food. So it's hard to give a klal, but if it's not a taruvais, you could throw out the pseilis, put the silverware where they belong, put the plate where it belongs. If it's a real mishachts, like you put one plate on top of the other, and you put all the silver onto one plate, no. If it's a taruvais, there's no eitzah. We mentioned last time in the camp where I go to, there's a table where like 12 bachrim sit, and the waiter has to find the salt shaker to take it out for shalashudas. He needs twice saying Rabban Yamin to find the salt shaker. So how can that be a taruvais? So what's the eitzah? Be careful, don't come to a taruvais. Now the Yasser B'Yashiv, something similar. What's the eitzah? He goes, the zogst an eitzah for alt. A real taruvais, you're not doing it for now use. What's the heta? To save from going in the garbage is not a heta. So the truth is, by a shalom zacha, by a kiddush, people like to clean up the table occasionally, very nice, but make sure it doesn't become a taruvah situation. Occasionally, you take all the dirty plates and cups, throw it out. But once it's a taruvah situation, you're talking about boyer. Refrigerator and freezer, it depends on your fridge or freezer. If you have a nicely packed refrigerator, each is separate, not a taruvah. If you can't find what you're looking for, that's taruvah. What I did see, interesting chiddush, let's say someone has in his refrigerator on the door, all the sodas lined up. And decides, I don't like this soda, I'm taking out this soda, I'll put a different one in. Taking out the soda he doesn't want, is that boyer? So they make an analogy, just like seforim on a shelf is not a taruvais. Each one is noticeable. Soda on a shelf in the refrigerator is not a problem of boyer. But in the refrigerator itself or freezer itself, again, if it looks like a bomb hit it, how can that be a taruvais? Seforim on a shelf is not a taruvais. Seforim piled high in disarray is a taruvais. Why? Perception. Taking the top sefer to use is a chamuta of a pile. Why? Because that's not mo'arav. But being alarmed, the first one, okay, now the second one is the top one. Third one is the top one. That's called sorting, which is a ma'aseh boyer. Someone asked me when he's cleaning his mor on Shabbos, let's say, or not mor, actually lettuce, romaine lettuce on Shabbos, and he finds a worm or 2. Is that boyer? The answer is boyer, because that's a small item on food. So you have to take the oichel from the pseilis. I'd like to leave you with 2 ha'aras. I'd love to hear from the olam 2 ha'aras that I think on the ma'aseh, which I'm not clear about. The Gemara, Shulchan Aruch speak about removing a splinter on Shabbos. The concern being, is it considered chabura? You're causing the bleeding. So if it's not a psik reish, it's okay. Question, why is it not a problem of boira? Now, I don't mean to be funny, but why not? This pseilis, and a person is the yoichel. Now, we saw Adam, boira by Adam, we saw the Yishalmi is not outlandish. The only thing that I was thinking, maybe I'll use the Maimon Mordechai, that if you're doing it, if there's no other choice, it's considered derech achila. But like we said earlier, it's not a heta, no other choice. The heta is, that's the way it's used, it's eaten. You don't eat the splinter. It's not that type of achila. Why isn't taking out a splinter a problem of boira? It's sure, it's davuk, it's more than davuk. And watermelon seeds is less embedded. This is stuck in. I'm talking about a deep splinter. But question number 2 is, washing dishes is a din HaMishnah. If you wash it for Shabbos use, there's no problem about chana after Shabbos, is okay. Why isn't it a problem of boira? Just like if you have dirt on fruit to wash it should be a problem of boira, or the topping, the spicy topping on challah, because it's medubak, it's dibuk, it's considered a taruvais. Why isn't washing dishes a problem of boira? If it would be boira, it would only muta samach l'suda. So I'm trying to understand, why is it any better than dirt on fruit? See, so it could be, and this is a lead, that the side of boira is conception, how we understand it. For some reason, no one will say it's a taruvais, it's a dirty dish. Maybe the difference is ma'isa boira, ma'isa nikui, but the ma'isa, until further notice, it's washing dishes muta. I couldn't talk to you all.
Shame Irgen Shir tell like big as a Smith for today's shir. But beside the shul and adaptical invite them to a like brunch in the back in honor of the adaptical in Kiryat Sefer Medini Lit. The shul has partners with it, with the koil there, with the amazing koil. There's a lot of papers in the back and Skonim waiting to help support the Choshaving Light and Kiryat Sefer that are basically with Torah. And have a chelik and a button in Limud Torah. Please join the breakfast in the back and be mishtatef in the Zokas HaTorah. Uchananya ben Akashim Rotz HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakis it's Shel Figi Himon Torah Midrash Nema Adonai Chofetz Aman Tzidke Yagdul Torah V'Yadeh.
And what can I add much
I give a seekum now.
Amen. The boy said there's no separation between the shir and the seeker right away. One.
Okay. Rabbi said what you learned today is boira is tikkun oichel if there's a taruvais and there's something wrong with the oichel. The definition of taruvais, like the Mishkan, is clear cut, small pieces, but lav dafka. We saw from the Yishalmi or Tesefta even bigger pieces, and it seems the hezbah is when something has the impression of being a taruvais. A lot of them, as we said, either it's the fact that it needs a tikkun, it's in disarray, the proximity of it, if it's close enough, or the amount of it, like a tray, even though it's not touching, but it's so many different foods on one tray, and the size, big or small, certainly small, makes it taruvais. But basically, the aleph is, if it lefi re'us or ayin, if there's a taruvais, then there's a problem of boira. Again, it's very subjective, The Masel Yo said he once asked B'Shem Zalman Shaila about boira. He goes, "Oi, boira is nish mavur." So as much as we tried, but boira is nish mavur. But this is basically the klolim. So a fruit cup, a fruit platter, a fruit bowl, and raisins and nuts are all examples of a taruvais for its own reason, and it should only be muta samach lachila. Trays of cake, kugel, and cold cuts, unless it's an unusual tray, it's at least a trimas hadeshen, which mitzad svara should be muta, but mitzad alocha, we look at it as a safek deraisa. Anytime it's asa, it's muta if there's you're taking the oichel, we said the ayil, oichel, yad, la'altam. Silverware that are mixed up is taruvais, scattered is not. You could scatter it and then separate it, and then use it because it's not separating. Clothing in the closet, depending on, of course, the amount of clothing the size of the closet. But a carrot on a fish is not a problem of taruvais. Peeling eggs and fruit, like most paiskim, is a chash deraisa, and that's certainly the minika oilam. A point, if there's a taruvais that's not the conventional taruvais of mixed up, but it's the point that it's of the dibuk, lamashal smetna, or a black and white, or the mushal of a fat on meat, so then the only problem of boir is that area. So if you leave that area untouched, then taking either side, almost till the end of it would be okay. Cutting off the entire white, but a small sliver is okay. Usually, as we said, that there is no heta of taking some of the psalas. That's we saw the eglital, some of the watermelon seeds, but here it's not at all affecting the maisa, that the place of the taruvais. Peel part of an egg is affecting a partial tikkun, and that's why it's awesome. A kishke wrapper, we said, is like the eggshell, has same halachas. Lollipop wrapper, sticky candy wrapper, we had a suffix, but definitely wrappers on sliced turkey, rubbers on shoes, is not a taruvais and not boirim. We did see a sticker on the fruit, should be a problem, and take off the oichel from the sticker, if shaykh, or cut around it. Tapping on challah that you don't want is a stick on taruvais, big in water, eggs, pickles, knedlach, the paiskim mekel. Small fly in the same clear liquid is a problem. A lemon in a drink, a tea bag in a drink, an ice cube in pitches, we said is mutter. Using a keli, some are machmir. Piles of towels, shirts, or piles of items in a suitcase is a taruvais, only mutter to use right away. Moving something aside in any mixture, but it's there, and to get to the oichel is perfectly mutter. Bialacha extends that, even taking off the psoilis, to putting it aside to get to the oichel is also mutter. Seforim cards are okay. A pile of chairs that some are broken is a taruvais and it's psoilis. A laundry basket, either turn it over or spread it out. Plate and silverware, the conception is not a taruvais. Fridge and freezer depends on the mitzias, and we left with two sveikis, the splinter. Why isn't it? Is it boyer, and why isn't washing dishes boyer? No, Yankel, was Oh, days and weeks.